Anime has always been more than entertainment for me. Again and again, I've found stories that acted like mirrors, reflecting my own life, responsibilities, and choices through the struggles of their characters. At times, it has even felt as though the stories were watching me as much as I was watching them. But not all anime mirror equally, and when I look across the many protagonists I've encountered, none has had a greater effect than Tanjiro Kamado. Now that may sound strange, for many dismiss Demon Slayer, and Tanjiro especially, as being shallow or boring. Some even call him a failed protagonist, too flawless to relate to. But I think this misses the point. Tanjiro is misunderstood, not because he lacks flaws, but because he fills a different role than most shonen leads. Although he is the protagonist, he is not the hero of Demon Slayer. He is something rare, a mentor at the story's center. To make this more clear, let's review what a shonen protagonist traditionally is. Shonen is a demographic category for anime and manga aimed at boys, usually between 12 and 18. Protagonists are almost always adolescent boys themselves, designed in such a way so that the audience can relate to them. And like any adolescent, they are typically flawed, caught somewhere between childhood and maturity. Take Nezuko Midoriya from My Hero Academia. He's highly idealistic, eager to help others, and easy to like. But he's also timid, insecure, and reckless. His early battles often end with him injuring himself because he can't yet control his powers. Midoriya begins unresolved, and his story is one of growth, learning to use his powers wisely to lead others and to overcome fear. At the other end of the spectrum is Edward Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Ed is fiery, proud, and reckless, quick to push the boundaries of alchemy. Costs him and his brother dearly, for Al loses his body, and Ed his arm and leg. And yet, when we meet him, he's still pursuing another forbidden power, that of the Philosopher's Stone. Ed's journey then is about cooling his temper and finding humility. He must learn to accept the limits of alchemy and learn to live with the consequences of his choices. In short, the typical shonen protagonist is an adolescent boy defined by his flaws, who matures into strength through struggle and the help of others. Now, let's compare those with Tanjiro. Like Midoriya and Ed, Tanjiro is hardworking and loves his family. Also like Ed, he's on a quest to restore what was lost. And like the both of them, he faces a central villain whose defeat is key to peace. But beyond these surface similarities, Tanjiro is different. Unlike Midoriya, he isn't obsessed with heroes or discontent with his life before tragedy struck. Midoriya believes he can only be happy if he had powers. Tanjiro, by contrast, was completely content as a charcoal maker. After the death of his father, Tanjiro took up the mantle as provider and caretaker. He was a mentor to his siblings, a respected member of his village, and even a peacemaker in disputes. He didn't need powers to be fulfilled. The Mugen Train arc drives us home, for dreams reveal a character's deepest desire. Zenitsu and Inosuke's dreams are silly and self-indulgent. Tanjiro's, however, is simple and heartbreaking, to continue living peacefully with his family. Unlike Midoriya, who craves the strength he lacks, Tanjiro would give up the sword in an instant if he meant he could return to that quiet life. Edward makes a similar sacrifice at the end of his story, giving up alchemy to restore Al, but Tanjiro begins the series already in that posture of self-denial. His growth has already taken place, likely after his father's death. By the time we meet him, he is not an immature boy on the path to wisdom. He is already wise, already stable. Which is why he serves not as the hero in need of mentorship, but as the mentor himself.
When we understand Tanjiro this way, many of the show's problems suddenly make sense. He seems flawless because his growth happened before the story began. His maturity isn't a weakness of writing, it's the lens that reveals the faults of others. Like a tuning fork, Tanjiro exposes dissonance wherever he goes. For Zenitsu and Inosuke, he is the older brother they desperately need, encouraging Zenitsu to overcome fear, teaching Inosuke restraint, sometimes with a kind word, sometimes with a headbutt. Nezuko too is shaped by his example. Some argue she's treated like an object in the series, but I think it's better explained by her own pre-series growth. Like Tanjiro, she matured early, also taking responsibility after their father's death in raising her younger siblings. It is her maturity and the support of Tanjiro that allows her to resist the temptation of blood and hold on to her humanity. Not even the Hashira are beyond Tanjiro's reach. Giyu struggles with unworthiness. Shinobu wrestles with bitterness over her sister's death. Muichiro is indifferent to those he deems unimportant. Through Tanjiro's kindness, each of them is forced to look inward and grow, not just in skill, but in character. And then there are the demons. Despite their cruelty, Tanjiro never forgets that they were once human. His compassion balances justice with mercy, keeping him from the corrosive hatred that eats away at the Hashira. In him, judgment and empathy are held together. Considering everything, Tanjiro emerges as a unique kind of protagonist, especially in the world of shōnen. Comparisons can be made to Himmel in Frieren, or even Uncle Iroh in Avatar. But Tanjiro stands out because he is both protagonist and mentor, anchoring the story not through power-hungry ambition, but through steady kindness. And without him, Demon Slayer would be far weaker. His role forces us to rethink what makes a compelling lead. Do we really need every protagonist to be immature and flawed, clawing their own way toward wisdom? Or is there also power in a character who has already grown, and now helps others to do the same? Perhaps that's why shows like Frieren resonate so strongly. They dare to ask what happens after the villain falls, after the coming-of-age story is over. Tanjiro reminds us that life isn't just about our own growth or victories, but true strength is found in helping others grow. A hero in the end is not only one who slays a dragon, but the one who inspires those around him to rise as well. You've been called to your own hero's journey. But remember, others have walked this path before you. Seek the guidance of mentors. They are blessings who can shape your story. And when you've overcome your own trials, don't forget the companions who stood beside you. For the journey is not only about victory, but about the bonds that carry us forward. As we said before, live a life worth telling because it's the only life worth living. Remember that a life worth living is one woven together with the community you've built along the way.